What would you do if your own dog, the animal that trusts you more than anyone, suddenly started growling at your partner, and then, nose to the ground, led you straight to the one thing you never imagined you'd find in your own home? A hidden camera. She and another man had set up, not just any man. Her trainer. The guy I thought was helping us bond with our dog, teaching him obedience, building trust. Instead, he was teaching me a lesson I'd never forget about: betrayal. I'll never forget the first growl. It was low, rumbling, and so out of character that it made me sit up straight. My dog, Max, loyal, goofy, gentle Max, wasn't the type to growl at anyone. He loved people too much. Tail always wagging, ears perked, tongue hanging out like the world was his playground. The only time I'd ever seen him serious was when he was laser-focused on a toy. But that night, sitting on the couch while she walked past with her phone in her hand, he growled. A deep, steady growl, his eyes following her like he knew something I didn't. I laughed at first. "What's wrong with you, buddy?" "That's Mom." But he didn't stop. His tail didn't wag. His ears went back. And for the first time, he looked at her like she was a stranger. She noticed, of course. She forced a laugh, too high-pitched, and said, "Weird. Maybe he's just tired." But something about the way she didn't even try to pet him, didn't try to soothe him, stuck with me. From then on, I started noticing things, small things. The way Max would position himself between us at night, the way he'd watch her every move, tense and alert, like he was waiting for her to slip up. The way he barked one afternoon when her phone buzzed, and she snatched it up too quickly. Dogs don't lie. They don't play games. They don't gaslight you. Dogs know. At first I thought maybe he was just reacting to stress in the house. We'd been arguing more. She'd been distant, snapping easily, always too tired to talk. But when I suggested maybe we should bring the trainer back to work with him again, since Max clearly wasn't himself, her face went pale. She covered it with a smile, but I saw it. A flash of something. Fear. Guilt. Still, I called the trainer. His name was Derek. A tall, overly confident guy with one of those grins that made you wonder if he was laughing at you, instead of with you. Max had liked him at first, but even during the sessions, I'd noticed how much attention he gave her, complimenting how quickly she picked up commands, brushing against her hand when showing leash techniques. I told myself I was imagining it. Nobody wants to admit the poison is already in the room. The next session, Derek came over when I was home. He was all smiles, joking with me, giving commands to Max, but Max wouldn't look at him, wouldn't take food from his hand. Instead, Max stayed by me, growling under his breath whenever Derek got too close to her. Derek laughed it off. Just a dominance thing. He'll grow out of it. But the hair on my neck stood up. 2 nights later it happened. I came home from work early. The house was quiet, too quiet. Max didn't greet me at the door like usual. Instead, I found him sitting in the hallway, ears pinned back, staring at the bedroom door. He growled again, low and steady, then looked at me, then back at the door. He wanted me to follow. My heart pounded as I walked down the hall. I expected God. I don't even know what I expected. Maybe someone was inside with her. Maybe Max was just being weird. But when I opened the door, the room was empty. She wasn't home. The bed was made. Everything looked normal. Except Max didn't relax. He walked straight to the dresser, pawed at the bottom drawer, then sat down and looked at me. I knelt, pulled the drawer out, and froze. Behind it, tucked against the wall, was a small black box. A camera, red light, blinking, recording. My stomach dropped. I yanked it out, stared at it in disbelief, then noticed the faint tape residue on the dresser's edge. This wasn't the only one. I tore through the room, found another near the bookshelf. Another by the TV. My skin crawled as I realized I'd been living inside a surveillance setup, without knowing it. I didn't know if I wanted to puke or punch a hole in the wall. When she got home, I was waiting. The cameras spread across the table like evidence in a trial. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. Her face went white. She opened her mouth, closed it, then said the dumbest thing I've ever heard. "It's not what it looks like." "Really?" I snapped, because it looks like I've been filmed in my own damn house. Tears welled in her eyes. I can explain," Derek said. And just like that, the truth spilled. Derek, the trainer, the man who'd been in our house, smiling at me, shaking my hand. He'd convinced her to help him set up cameras. At first she claimed It was about tracking Max's behavior. But it escalated. Always does. From just training footage to something darker. I didn't need every detail. The betrayal was already enough. My chest burned, my throat closed, and Max stood between us, growling again. My own dog protecting me from the woman I thought I'd spend my life with. I kicked her out that night, bag in hand, tears streaming, begging me to understand. But I understood perfectly. She'd chosen him. She'd chosen deceit. She'd chosen to turn our home into a stage without my consent. The fallout was ugly. Friends split down the middle. Some believed her lies about just training footage. Others shook their heads and told me I was better off. Her parents called, begged me to reconsider, said she was confused. But the truth was simple. Once someone films you in your own home without your knowledge, the relationship is over. Period. The weeks after were hell. I couldn't sleep in my own bed without wondering if another camera was hidden somewhere. I tore the place apart, combing through every outlet, every vent, every corner. Even after I replaced the locks, installed my own cameras, this time with my passwords, the paranoia lingered. But Max, God bless him, never left my side. He slept at the foot of the bed, followed me room to room, nudged my hand when my thoughts spiraled. He'd growl at the door when someone came by, ears sharp, ready to protect. He knew. He'd always known. And slowly I started to heal. I reported Derek, of course, filed a complaint, showed the evidence. I don't know how far the investigation went, but he disappeared from the local training scene. Good riddance. As for her, last I heard, she tried to spin the story, claim she'd been manipulated. Maybe she was, but manipulation doesn't excuse betrayal. It doesn't excuse setting cameras in a place that should have been safe. Months later, I ran into Derek at the grocery store. He looked smaller, weaker, like life had chewed him up. He saw me, froze, then turned and left his cart behind just to avoid me. That was enough. No confrontation needed. His shame was louder than any punch I could have thrown. The real turning point came one night, when I was sitting on the couch, Max's head in my lap, scrolling through my phone. For the first time in months, I realized I wasn't replaying the betrayal. I wasn't hearing her excuses, or seeing that red blinking light in my head. I was just there, in the moment, with my dog snoring softly, and peace settled in. That's when it hit me. Max had saved me. Not just from being filmed, not just from being humiliated. He'd saved me from wasting more years on someone who didn't deserve me. He'd forced me to see the truth I was trying to ignore. So yeah, my dog started growling at her, and then led me to the hidden camera she and her trainer had set up. It shattered me at first, but in the end, it freed me. Because sometimes betrayal isn't the end of your story. Sometimes it's the beginning of the one you should have been living all along. The night I laid all the cameras out on the table is burned into my memory like a scar. Even after she left with her suitcase half-zipped, even after I locked the door behind her, I just sat there staring at them. 4 little black boxes, innocent-looking, silent, each one with that faint sticky tape on the back, each one a reminder of just how blind I'd been in my own house. I didn't sleep that night. Max curled up on the floor beside me, his chin resting on my foot like he knew I was unraveling. I sat in the living room with the lights off, eyes darting around the shadows, convinced I'd missed one. At 3 in the morning I ripped the place apart all over again, pulling vents off, unscrewing outlet covers, even checking under the damn couch cushions. Nothing else turned up, but the paranoia stayed. The first few weeks were the hardest. I couldn't sit in a room without scanning the corners. I taped over my laptop camera, unplugged the smart TV, even shoved my phone in a drawer whenever I needed to change clothes. Rationally, I knew the devices I'd found were the only ones. But betrayal doesn't bow to rational thought. Betrayal rewires you. The texts came in waves. First her, then Derek, then her family. She begged. I was manipulated. He pressured me. It wasn't what you think. Derek tried swagger first. You're overreacting, man, it was just footage for training. When I didn't bite, he turned sour, calling me insecure, weak. I didn't respond to either of them. Not one word. Silence was the only power I had left, and I clung to it like a lifeline. Her parents called too. Long voicemails about how she was confused and made a mistake. They pleaded with me not to throw everything away, But the thing they never understood is that the cameras weren't just about cheating. They were about the violation of my own home, my own space. You don't come back from that. Max was the only one who kept me steady. He'd nudge my hand when I spiraled, bark at the door if someone lingered too long outside, curl up against me when the nightmares jolted me awake. I started to realize he hadn't just saved me once by leading me to the cameras. He was saving me every day after, dragging me back into the present when my mind tried to drown me. Eventually I reported Derek, not just to the Trainers Association he was a part of, but to the police. Handed over the cameras, the footage, the receipts I'd found hidden in her email. Sitting in that precinct, explaining how my girlfriend and her dog trainer had turned my apartment into a reality show, was humiliating. But the detective didn't laugh. He just nodded, took notes and said, "You did the right thing." I don't know how far the investigation went. They told me they'd follow up, and a few weeks later, Derek's business vanished from the local listings. His website gone, his flyers pulled, his social media scrubbed. I never saw him in the neighborhood again. Maybe the law caught up with him. Maybe his reputation just couldn't survive the whispers. Either way, he was out of my life. But the paranoia lingered. Even after I'd reclaimed my apartment, even after I knew the locks were changed and the walls were clean, I still felt watched. I'd catch myself turning my head suddenly, convinced a lens was glinting in the corner. I'd avoid phone calls, wondering if my voice was being recorded. Some nights I'd pull every drawer out again just to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. That's when I knew I needed help. Real help. I found a therapist. My own this time. Not some couples counselor. I sat down in her office and said, "My girlfriend and her trainer hid cameras in my house. My dog found them. Now I don't know how to feel safe anywhere." She didn't flinch. She nodded, like she'd heard versions of this before. And over weeks, she taught me how to separate vigilance from paranoia. To recognize that Max wasn't just reacting to betrayal, he was reacting to me, to the stress I radiated, the tension I carried. It was slow work. I still checked the corners, still taped over cameras, but piece by piece the fear loosened its grip. One turning point came months later. I was out running with Max, when we passed a couple training their dog with a new trainer. For a moment my chest tightened, panic surging, but Max looked up at me, tongue lolling, tail wagging, and it hit me. Not all trainers were Derek. Not all people were betrayers. One man's betrayal didn't mean the world was unsafe forever. That realization cracked the shell I'd been living in. I started saying yes to more things, hiking with friends, weekend trips, inviting people into my home again. And slowly laughter crept back in. Real laughter, not the bitter, hollow kind. Then came the new chapter. I met someone, Rachel, not in a dramatic way, not some staged meet cute, just a neighbor at the dog park, who laughed when Max stole her frisbee. We started talking, then walking our dogs together, then grabbing coffee. She was calm, steady, kind, no games, no secrets. The first time she came over, I watched Max like a hawk. If he growled, if he stiffened, if he showed any of the signs he'd shown before, that would have been it. But he didn't. He wagged his tail, leaned against her leg, even let her scratch behind his ears. That was Max's seal of approval. And honestly, I trusted him more than anyone. Months in, I finally told her the whole story. The growls, the cameras, the betrayal. I braced myself for pity, for judgment, for her to see me as broken. But she just shook her head, whistled low and said, "Max saved your life." And she was right. Because if Max hadn't growled, if he hadn't led me to that drawer, I might still be living in ignorance. Still being filmed, still being played. He didn't just save me from them. He saved me from wasting more years on a lie. Looking back now, the betrayal doesn't define me. What defines me is the survival. The choice to walk away, to rebuild, to trust again. So yeah, my dog started growling at her, and then led me to the hidden camera she and her trainer had set up. At the time it broke me, but in the long run, it freed me. Because sometimes salvation doesn't come as a voice, sometimes it comes as a growl in the dark, from the one creature who loved you too much to let you stay blind.